Childhood development is the most important part of one's life. It is a process that involves physical, emotional, social, and overall compatibility with society. But sometimes parents don't do their part in helping their child grow and progress. That is exactly what happened with the kids from the Umbrella Academy. The Umbrella Academy is a TV show created for Netflix by Steve Blackman. It is based from the comic with the same name made by Gabriel Ba and Gerard Way.
Wait, Gerard Way?
The show revolves around the dysfunctional superpowered family dealing with their father's death. But as it turns out, his death is a small problem compared to the impending doom awaiting them. What I noticed about the kids is that they are all victims of abuse, and because of this, their adult lives are stunted in different ways. In this video, we would be looking into the different impacts of abuse and how it is represented in the Umbrella Academy. Before we start, do know that I will be basing everything from season 1 of the Netflix show, so some things might be different from the original comics. Luther is ranked number 1. He thinks he is the leader of the group because of this, which is messed up since how many he thinks that he is above everyone else. But in reality, it was because he was the one with the most useful superpower in Reginald's eyes, super strength. The first impact we'll be talking about is control issues, and our boy Luther has this flowing out of his ass. As the quote-unquote leader of the group, he tries to keep everyone and everything at arm's length. Contradictory to this though, he tries his best to hide away from the world after his childhood. It's the classic case of Stockholm Syndrome. He became so attached to his father, he didn't want to leave the academy. His abuse formed him to be used to that kind of life, so he never actually wanted to leave. Because of this, he never actually matures emotionally, thus further isolating him. Another reason why he could have stayed is for a purpose. He wants to be useful and needed, so when Luther finds out that the moon mission was useless, he goes through an existential crisis. He thinks about how he isn't worth anything to anyone anymore. Because of his isolation, he has a black and white view of everything, specifically honor and responsibility. For him, it's either the leader or nothing, number 1 or nothing, a hero or nothing at all. Reminds me of Steve Rogers in a weird way. They both have this overly idealistic view of the world, and because of this way of thinking, they are further isolated from the people and the world. Diego is the second child of the group. His main power is superhuman accuracy. He's a rebellious and brash person. However, as it turns out, he used this to hide his true feelings and his insecurities. He started off wanting to be with the police and stopping crime, but he was ultimately removed, probably due to behavioral issues. Here he meets Eudora Patch, and they get into a relationship. We start the series with him being a vigilante and not being with the police. He's still in contact with Eudora though, but they have since broken up. The main thing about Diego is his inferiority complex towards Luther. He is always trying to be above Luther. This is probably because he wants to show other people and most importantly Reginald that he deserved number 1. He knew that Luther was the favorite and he was saddened about it. Because of this, he turned to his mother as his main source of emotional connection in his childhood. The impact of abuse Diego portrays is very complex. He is a person who tries to shun people and tries to be the lone wolf. But as seen from the things he did about his mom and Patch, he also has a habit of acting on his emotions without thinking. So we can conclude that he does have emotional problems, specifically processing them. He doesn't have a way to release his anger and feelings, so he resorts to being a workaholic. He impulsively tries to take care of the world to fix the world instead of reflecting and fixing himself. Allison is the third sibling in the Hargreeves family. Her power is manipulation through words in the format of I heard a rumor than what she wants a person to do. Allison is a person who is actually very kind and well-intentioned, but as it turns out, she has used her power multiple times to get what she wants from people, and because of this, she is going through a divorce from her husband. The main thing I noticed about her is that she has deep insecurity about what she has done in her life. In the show, it can be seen when she was driving that she thinks about the things she has said. The impact of abuse that Allison shows is also control issues. Her powers allows her to be in control of probably everything in her life, and it's scary that she can do that. Also, if you think about it, her loved ones have been manipulated and forced to do something multiple times. It just doesn't sit right with me, but then again, it's a really good character flaw. Klaus is the fourth sibling in the family. His power is the ability to contact and conjure the dead. Klaus is the person who likes living life to the quote-unquote fullest by taking drugs, and because of this, he is often not taken seriously by people. He figures out that not being sober helps lower the strength of his power. It stops the visions and the voices that he hears from ghosts. This is why when he was kidnapped by Hazel and Chacha, it was more of a hell for him when he isn't being beaten, because he hears the people that they have killed. He's the only child who has a good mindset on the experiences that Reginald put him through. He accepts that it sucks and moves on without dwelling on it too much. The impact of abuse that he shows is post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. He gets flashbacks from the things that he went through, like being locked in a mausoleum and experiencing ghosts. His PTSD also affects how he relates to people and how he treats himself. His way of dealing with relationships is seen when Vanya was locked in a soundproof room. He felt for her because he's reminded of his experience. He wanted to let Vanya out because he knows what it can cause, and he doesn't want her to go through what he went through. His self-hatred is seen in his tolerance of pain. Physical injury to him gives him actual pleasure. Third way, PTSD has a dysfunction of neurotransmitters, so this makes the person feel good when physically hurt. Number 5 is the 5th child in the Hargreeves family. His power is mainly space-time manipulation. Number 5 is generally bitter about everything. He's dismissive about the intellect of others, including his family. He's also sarcastic and prideful, but he's very focused on his missions. Age 13, he went against his dad's advice and tried to time travel. He succeeds, but he gets stuck in the post-apocalyptic future for more than 30 years. He's then hired by the handler to keep the timeline from breaking off. This includes mostly assassinations. He eventually comes back to stop the apocalypse, but his body regrets to that of his 13-year-old self, with the exception of his mind. His rebellion also caused him to be hunted down by the Commission in the form of Hazel and Cha-Cha. The thing about 5 is that he is very antisocial, but he longs for human connection and intimacy. He dismisses people because he thinks that he is better than them due to the things that he went through. Oddly enough, that's also why he wants relationships. He went through hell for more than 30 years that he used as a mannequin as a way to have a companion with at least a mental picture of a human being. He wants to feel normal just like he did all those years before. Ben is the 6th child. His power is the ability to summon eldritch creatures from another dimension using a portal somewhere in his body. We aren't really shown much of him in the show, but from the things he says and how he interacts with Klaus, we can probably see how he thinks. The most noticeable thing about Ben is how much he wants to do normal things. He wants to do the things that he did before he died, like going to the beach or going to a movie. He's living life through Klaus, which is why he gets mad when Klaus ruins his own life and is being careless about it.
What the worst part of being dead is? You're stuck. Nowhere to go, nowhere to change. That's the real torture if you gotta know. Watching your brother take for granted everything you lost and pissing it all away.
In my opinion, he could have went through depression when he was still alive. And if I were to guess, it would probably be due to how the use of his powers affect him. It would make sense because if it pains him, then he wouldn't want to use the power all that much. But like the other children, he had to use it a lot. It's first in that with what he said about dealing with the bank robbers.
Do I really have to do this?
In the last episode, he seems to also be in pain when he was using the tentacles. Lastly, his statue in the mansion reads, "May the darkness within you find peace in the light." Do note that most of what I said about Ben is speculation since we aren't really shown much of him in Season 1. But since Season 2 will be releasing soon, we might be able to see more of him. Vanya is the last of the Hargreeves. She is a very reserved and introverted person. She also plays third seat violin in an orchestra. All her life, she was kept from being with the other 6 because she was ordinary. As it turns out, she not only has powers, she has the strongest one of the entire academy. Her power was the ability to use her emotions in turning sound into energy. Vanya's personality can be seen in people who have BPD or borderline personality disorder. BPD is a mental health disorder that affects how you see people and others. I think this is also why she trusted Leonard very quickly. She finally had someone who understands, connects, and helps her with herself and her emotions. The thing that breaks Vanya and turns her into the white violin was when she is locked up in a soundproof room. I think it's a metaphor that she can't do anything inside at first. She becomes rejected once again by her family. She becomes ordinary again, and we all know what she felt about being ordinary and powerless. The Hargreeves family is full of people who are scarred by their past, their trauma, and their abuse. They deal with it in different ways, but I think I found a way where it can be summarized into 2 main ones. Trying to control the things around them and how everything is, like Allison, 5, Diego, and Luther. Or just giving up and letting the world go past them, like Klaus, Ben, and Vanya. But while they have differences, they share one thing: isolation. Luther with him being an outsider merely looking in, Diego with his emotions and insecurities, Allison with her mistakes, Klaus with his power, 5 going through things that no one had to, Ben being isolated because he can't live out his life anymore, and lastly, Vanya being isolated because she was ordinary in a family of prodigies. The Umbrella Academy is a very good show that gives us a look into how children are affected by childhood abuse, how their lives and their futures are shaken up by their past. But hey, I might just be overthinking it. Hey, thank you for watching. Umbrella Academy is actually one of those shows that sound pretty boring on paper, but once you actually watch it, it's truly something else. When this video goes up, Season 2 is probably out, so make sure to watch that. And by the way, check out my other video about the MCU Spider-Man. So yeah, bye!